Good morning, guys. Hey, this has nothing to do with anything, but I just want to tell you, today's my birthday. Yeah, thanks. I have celebrated my birthday at this move every year for the last 7 years because it always happens during this week, except for the one COVID year. I'm 73 years old today, so I know. I take very good care of myself. So that's actually what, yes, I'm lying. I'm actually 83 years old. Oh, no. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. To be fair, you probably should be singing for my mother because I didn't do much, actually. She did all the work, but yes. Thank you for that. I just turned 45 years old. No. 73 years old, 45 years old, yeah. Okay, guys. So the passage today, interesting situation. It's a very mixed crowd of people Jesus is talking to. You got some rough candidates. I'm talking like X-rated workers, gangbangers, crooked government officials, embezzlers, rough characters. And some very, very, very good, upright, upstanding, property-owning, starched collars, go to church every Sunday, never miss a communion, go to church Wednesday night as well. Very good folks. And then everything in between. And the really upright, upstanding citizens are wondering about Jesus. They start complaining, like, what is up with this man? Why does he hang out with this crowd of people? He even eats with these people. And that's when Jesus shares these two stories. He says, imagine that there was a farmer that had 100 sheep and one of them went missing. Wouldn't he leave the 99 and go search for the one sheep? And if he found it, doesn't he bring it back? And he's so excited, he tells all his friends and everyone's very happy and they have a big celebration. And he says there's even more joy in heaven over one person who is lost that turns around than there is for that sheep. And he says, imagine there is a woman that has 10 coins. That's all she has to live on. And she loses one of them. Wouldn't she sweep the whole house looking for that coin? I don't know if you've ever lost your phone for even like a minute, but you have that panicky feeling. Like, how far will you go to look to find that lost thing that matters to you? And this is an even bigger thing than that. And Jesus says there's even more rejoicing in heaven over one lost person who turns around. This is a very strong talk from Jesus. There are not many things in the Bible that he is this strong about. That this is for God, people who have wandered away, who are lost, it is a drop everything else priority for God. It is that big of a deal. Those of you who are parents, or if you ever become parents, or I know you can use your imagination to imagine this. When I became a dad, I had experiences where I feel like I was able to understand God's perspective on this a little bit more clearly than I did before, because sometimes you misplace a kid. Like, it just happens. Sometimes you lose track of them. One time I was at this, sorry, was that a little too real? It does happen sometimes. I'm not God, I'm dad. We were at this playground in New York. This is in Manhattan. We called it Sandbox Playground. That's not what it was called. My boys called it Sandbox Playground because there's a great big sandbox in the middle of it. And it was like a good-sized, for Manhattan standards, it was a good-sized playground. And it had like an iron fence all the way around it. So I loved to take them there because once the gate was closed, you could actually semi-relax. You could let your vigilance level come down a little bit. So it had like that spongy turf, and there were some water features, and there was the big like cable spider web thing, and towers and slides and swings and all that kind of good stuff. So picture like 100 to 150 barefoot kids playing in the middle, and then like tired adults ringed around on the benches, thumbing their phones or like nodding off or chatting with the other dads or whatever. So that's the scene. Well, one time we're there, and this is when my oldest son Rowan was maybe 2.5, and I lost him. No, I would lose him for a few seconds. Every once in a while you'd look up and find, oh, he's over there. And you could kind of see the whole playground, but I couldn't find him. So I got up and I started looking around. I checked the sandbox. I checked over by the swing. Sometimes he'd go over there hoping that I'd come push him. I checked the little thing where we played ice cream stand and, bought and sold imaginary ice cream flavors and all that kind of stuff. And I don't see him anywhere. So then I start asking other parents, and I'm starting to feel that kind of, You know that feeling? You ever almost rear-ended someone and stomped the brakes? You get that hot flash? I'm starting to kind of feel that. That kind of, but I'm keeping my cool. You've seen Rowan. I go ask a couple of his friends. I go check behind the tree that we sometimes use as a public bathroom because there's no bathrooms in New York City. He's not back there. And now the panic level is a little bit I start calling out a little bit hey, Rowan, hey, buddy. And instinctively, I start kind of backing towards the gate of this playground because I'm not going to let anybody come out of this playground. And I'm about 5 seconds away from going full Liam Neeson and grabbing someone by the neck, what do you know? Tell me everything you know. Where did you see him? And I look over at my stroller, which I had parked against the fence so the back was facing me, and I just see this tiny little sandaled foot flop out of the side of the stroller. I went over there and turned the stroller around, and he was in the stroller sleeping. He just put himself down for a nap. He just decided, I'm done with this, and went and found the stroller and climbed inside it and took a nap. But whoa, that feeling, oh my gosh, nothing mattered. There was a moment there where I was I'll go to the jail, I'll go to the hospital, I'll go to the morgue, I don't care. Nothing in the world matters but this. And like I said, you felt a little feeling of that, even if you've ever lost anything kind of important to you. If you've misplaced an assignment or misplaced your phone, you feel a little flash of that, but it's that times 1,000. I've had this other experience, though, much more often, and this has happened with all three of my boys. I've had this experience where they can't find me, but I can see them. So all of them, it's like a stage of development or something. It'll usually happen in a crowded place. So picture 4th of July fireworks or an amusement park or maybe the airport or something. There's a lot of people around, and their frame of reference is this tall. So they don't need to get very far away from me before, if they look around, they can't find me. They just see legs and knees and scary adults, right? But this has happened with all of them. They all wander off on their own, Maybe I said, you guys got to stay in the little terminal area here. Maybe they're being disobedient and they wander off, or maybe I'm letting them. Maybe I'm just yeah, go ahead, see. Or it's a 4th of July, crowded hillsides and stuff. And they wander off, and then I'm following them. I follow them. I kind of I don't let them get too far away. I'm kind of following behind. Try not to let them see me following them because I want them to have their independence. But I'm always I can kind of see them, But then there's always this moment where I'm I can tell you can't see me. I can see you. I'm right there. But if you turn around and look for me, you're not going to be able to find me, and it's going to freak you out. And then, invariably, they're fine, they're content, they're exploring, and then something will happen that sort of unsettles them. Maybe it's a scary-looking man, or the firework goes off, boom, or there's a dog that kind of comes over real fast to sniff them, and that freaks them out. And then they start to look around for me, and they, just as I predicted, they can't see me. They look around, they can't see me. And then the panic starts to set in. Because from their perspective, for all they know, I left them there. And what do they know? For all they know, I was phew, and left, and they'll never see me again, and they're alone in the big, mean world. And you can see the true horror that starts to set into their faces. It's awful. They are lost. They're lost. And then they start to cry out. They start to seek. They start, Daddy, Daddy, Daddy. They start to cry out. And it probably feels 1,000 years for them. It's 2 seconds. It takes me 2 seconds to get around the people, but they start to cry out, and I push my way through the crowd. I start calling out to them, hey, buddy, I'm here. I'm right here. And they kind of hear the voice, and they start looking around, but they can't find me. I'm right here. And either they lock eyes with me, and then there's the relief on their face, or I get through and I find them, and it's always the same. Buddy, I will never leave you. I will never leave you. I'm always right there. I will never leave you. I think every single person in the world is at some stage of that process with God. I certainly went through all of them. So rewind about 25 years when I was just a little bit older than most of you are. I was 19 or 20. I was kind of going off on my own, and life was pretty good. I was pretty content. I had entered university. I was majoring in something that I wasn't super excited about, but it was going to lead to a very stable job that paid really well. And I had great friends from high school, and I had a really good relationship with this girl. And, I was just living my life. Things were fine. But then some things happened that started to unsettle me a little bit. I really didn't like what I was majoring in. I just didn't like it. The other people in my program liked it, and I just started to realize, like, I kind of hate this. I don't really want to do this with my life. And my friends from high school scattered to the four winds, and I went to this huge commuter college, and it turned out to be like almost impossible to make friends. You would take a class with someone and never see them again because there's tens of thousands of people at this school. So I was pretty lonely, and I had moved in with my girlfriend. This was before I was a believer. We did things all out of order, but I'd moved in with my girlfriend, and then because we did things all out of order, when we broke up, it was just horrible. It was horrible. We were stuck together in this lease, and then she started dating other people, and I will never forget the morning I got up and went out to work and saw her lean across the front seat of the car to kiss this guy. I got someone much better now, so it's okay. Like, don't stress too much, but I shouldn't say that. She's probably a wonderful person, but because it was just at that time, it was just a horrible, horrible thing. And then my best buddy from high school died in a DUI, and he didn't just die, he also killed in a DUI. He was really lit up and driving over 100 miles an hour and swung left to center and smashed right into this family in a station wagon, and he killed himself, and he paralyzed his girlfriend, and he killed this other guy's wife and two kids in the station wagon. So I'll go to the funeral. I will never forget. I mean, I can see it like it's right here in front of me, his reconstructed face in that casket, and the pool ball, the 8-ball tucked under his arm, and the pack of Newport cigarettes tucked under the other arm. I can see it clear as day. And being so devastated that he was gone, so sad, and also so furious at what he had done, at this mistake, this horrible mistake that he made that wrecked this whole other family system. And that really unsettled me. I tell you what, and whenever someone your age dies, and some of you, I've talked to some of you who have experienced this, dies for whatever reason. Whenever someone your age dies, it kind of throws you into the underworld a little bit. And the older you get, it just happens more frequently because the statistics, it just becomes more frequent. So it just kind of rocks you a little bit. So then I was very unsettled, and it got bad. I got depressed. We were a little bit shyer about diagnosing depression back then. We've gotten so much better about encouraging mental health and professional help, and that's a really good thing because then... And I really do. But then we just kind of like didn't know as much. I don't know. And I didn't have anyone close enough to me to look at me and say that's what I was going through. But it was a depression, no question about it. I went through like a deep dive. And because I didn't really know, I started to self-medicate. I was getting high and drinking all the time. And looking back, it wasn't like happy party. It was like sad, lonely, getting high. And then I dropped out of school and I quit my job, and I just went from one bad job to the next and one self-destructive relationship to the next. And I was in a word, I was lost. And full disclosure, I'll tell you, I did have a very dark period where I have some experience with self-harm and suicidal ideation and all that. And I only mention it today because I know in a room this size, certainly some of you have had those kind of feelings, are having those kind of feelings, know someone who has had those kind of feelings. And so I just want to hit the pause button to just say to you, please, please, ask for help. Please, please open up about it. Please talk to one of your adult leaders about it. Please seek professional help about it. We have these trained professionals who are shepherds of the mind, and mental health is as complex as physical health, and you need help. And in the meantime, while you're gathering the courage to do that or figuring out who you can talk to, please keep putting one foot in front of the other. Please. I'm telling you, it does get better. It does. It's temporary. Keep moving forward. And even if it doesn't get better, we need you. We need you. There are people who are counting on you. There are people who want you around. And God has laid out good works for you to do before He laid out the foundations of the world. It might seem insignificant. It might be something as small as just you're going to pray for someone that no one else has ever prayed for before. But it's vital that you do it, so please, please don't give up. But that's where I was. And probably the bottom of the valley was the moment where I was in my dingy apartment where I lived alone, and I just got off third shift, working at a gas station or something. And I said out loud to my room the first honest prayer I think I ever prayed, although I certainly wouldn't have called it a prayer at that point in my life. I said, okay, all right, God, if you exist, and if you're all powerful, and if you care, then give me faith. I didn't really think I was praying. I thought it was more of like a spiritual experiment. But I think it was God's foot in the door to my heart, because a couple weeks after that, I was on a pizza delivery for a pizza place I was working for, and I kept having this feeling. Like, you've never read the Bible cover to cover, Chris. You're full of it, man. You keep saying it's all nonsense, but you've only read what other people said about it. You've never actually read it for yourself. And I couldn't shake this feeling. It was violating my own sense of integrity, like I was being fake. Like I was saying I knew something I didn't really know anything about. I'd never read it. And so I stopped at a little local bookstore. They used to have these things called bookstores where they had books in there. And I bought a copy of the Bible. And I took it home and I started to read it. And I just read it from the beginning, like a novel, which may not be the best way to do it, but it's what I did. And it was blown away. There's a whole lot I couldn't make any sense of, but I was an English lit major, so there was a whole lot that was so achingly beautiful and surprisingly true to life. Like, it's R-rated. The Bible is R-rated. It's not for little kids. And it paints the world as it is. And I gradually became convinced that, okay, if there's a God of all this, he's probably like this God. And then when I got to the words and the deeds of Jesus, he's utterly unique. There's no one like him. There's no close second to Jesus. I mean, not even in fiction. People who make up stories haven't come up with a character like the character of Jesus. The things that he said and did were just so otherworldly and countercultural that I became convinced that there must be some supernatural power at work in the universe, at least behind the creation of these documents. And so then I was seeking. I was calling out. And long story short, this was years of up and down, but I went back to school and I went to seminary and I got married and I got involved in being a pastor and I moved to New York City and helped plant a church, and here we are, 25 years later. All these, lots of heartache, a lot of challenges, lots of big successes, incredible adventure. Okay, I share all that to say this. All of us are somewhere in that phase of the journey, and actually I think we kind of cycle through those phases. Tonight, when you come back here for the session, we are going to create an opportunity for you to be found by God. And what I'd like to ask you to do between now and then, whether you need to get off by yourself and do a little journaling or discuss this in your small groups, is I'd like you to just kind of look at your own life and your own heart and try to answer this question. Where are you in those phases of lostness? Are you kind of out on your own right now, doing your own thing, pretty content? Things are working out pretty well. Don't have any big complaints. Don't really feel like you're missing anything. Has something happened to unsettle you, to rock you a little bit, to make you go, wait a second, maybe there's more than this, or maybe this isn't quite working, or maybe this isn't going to work forever? Maybe something this week has happened to unsettle you, something someone said or did. Are you in it right now? Like, have you realized you're lost? Are you in the valley of the shadow of death? Are you like, the horror has set in, the panic has set in? Have you started to call out, to seek? Maybe seeking the wrong places, using this or doing that or trying that or searching after that or trying to get that, and maybe you're starting to see that's not going to work. Are you seeking for the truth? Are you willing to seek the truth? Jesus said, seek and you will find. That's not because you can get to God. You can't. Some gaps are just too big. But if you seek all this while the God who has been right there, he will find you.